I'm also taking a look at this Washington, Texas thing that is really quite exciting, honestly, because I didn't expect to be this thrilled about the college football playoff because it usually comes down to one team not being that good. And I thought this team was going to be Florida State, but now you get to see, because Texas stomped out Oklahoma State, because Quinn Ewers looked so good, because they look deep at all positions, they get into a spot where they're playing the best Washington team that probably has taken a football field since 1991, when Washington went 12-0 to win a national championship in the Rose Bowl against Michigan. That could be your national championship game once again. And you know what? Nobody's more deserving among the 4 teams in this college football playoff to get into this thing than Washington. They played one of the toughest schedules in the country and won football games the last month the way that Florida State had won football games, by the skin of their teeth, but they have Michael Penix Jr. healthy. That's the difference. And then against an Oregon team that we all thought was good, an Oregon team that we all thought should have won that first round matchup in week 7 against Washington in Seattle, they stomped them out. As a 9.5-point favorite, that Washington offense went to work. It got the run game going, a thing that used to be a hood ornament for Washington football, even last year when they won 11 games. They got their best wide receiver on the field, and they got their second best wide receiver back for the first time in weeks, and they played like it. 100-yard receiving performances for Jalen McMillan and Rome Odunze in this game. Michael Penix went for 300. Dylan Johnson went for 150 on the ground. And the defense did its job against the most efficient offense in football. Bo Nix is going to be a Heisman finalist because of how he has performed. Troy Franklin was outstanding. Trayshawn Holden's outstanding. Bucky Irvin, Jordan James, outstanding. That defense was the best scoring defense in the Pac-12. And Washington got a top 5 victory to cement a 13-0 season to become the first 13-0 Pac-12 champion before we play a single bowl game. And for their efforts, they get to play a Texas team that has rounded into form, even without its best tailback on the field for the last month of the season. Jonathan Brooks, sideline, doesn't matter. We got CJ Baxter back there. Doesn't matter that you don't always get what you want out of an Adonai Mitchell, but you got Xavier Worthy, who, by the way, is a first-round draft pick. Somebody needs to take that dude off the board real quick, fast, and in a hurry, because he's got it like that. And then you can go to JT Sanders, because one of the things that I think people are going to recognize over the next month is, if you think that Brock Bowers is the best tight end in the country, you're right. But if you don't know that JT Sanders is the second best tight end in the country, you're wrong. JT Sanders had over 100 yards receiving against Oklahoma State in the Big 12 championship game, and that man has been a monster since high school. He's one of my favorite players in high school to go. So I get to go to Texas. And one of the things that I asked Steve Sarkisian about him in year 1 was, hey, which side of the ball is that dude going to play on? Because he has it to play both defensive end and tight end. But when you see his hands and you see his speed and you see how he matches up against safeties and linebackers, you scheme for him. And that's exactly what Steve Sarkisian does so well. Scheme for his players. He's going to make you wrong. You're going to think the ball's one way, it's coming back the other. And now that he has Quinn Ewers absolutely operating on the level that we thought Quinn Ewers could operate on, they look like the kind of team that could absolutely give a team like Washington the business. And then that's before I start talking about what that defense has done. Also, we talked about Steve Sarkisian being at Washington. Pete Kwiatkowski was defense coordinator at Washington over there with Jimmy Lake in the Chris Peterson era. So this is going to be fun either way we look at it. And Pete Kwiatkowski's defense has been mauling T'Vondre Sweat so good that they put him in the backfield on offense, put him on tight end on offense, throw him the football for a touchdown. Defensive player of the year in the Big 12. They've got outstanding dudes at corner and safety. They got what I think is an All-American and linebacker, and they've got a freshman phenom in Anthony Hill that can run people down. I'm excited for that. They match up, both of those teams match up well to the teams they're going to play, Washington and Texas. I think even right now, we're looking at a Texas team that's probably going to have the edge because Washington defensively is not great and still that much of a liability. But again, they've got the offense to match whatever offensive performance the Texas can put in. So if we get a shootout in that game that is going to be January 1st in the Sugar Bowl, I'm going to get everything I want, right? That's the thing. If you're not a Florida State fan, this is how you draw it up. I think when you look at Michigan and Washington there, though, 1 versus 2, Washington probably feels okay with being 2, given how the season has gone and given what Michigan has done so far. But they would have cause to be the number 1 team. But being the number 1 team in this instance means you playing Bama. I think that's the last team on anybody's schedule they want to play right now, because what Jalen Milroe has been for them has nothing short of magnificent. Same thing with Isaiah Bond. And Bama's going to get an opportunity to get healthy. Matter of fact, that Bama defense is the thing that I'm the most terrified of if I have to play them. Because it's not just Chris Braswell and Dallas Turner or Deontay Lawson. It's Caleb Downs on the back end. Like, I can't yell this enough. That is the dude that I picked to win the Jen Thorpe Award. And he's a true freshman. He leads Alabama in tackles. They matched him up against Brock Bowers, and he was giving that dude the business. And that's before you get to Kool-Aid McKinstry and Terrion Arnold. Terrion Arnold, the Trayvon Diggs of college football. That dude is just as likely to go pick the pass off as he is to get beat, but he's going to block, he's going to tackle, he's going to run it down. He's going to play hard. I think that's one of Nick Saban's favorite players on that team, and the way that Jordan Battle was a couple of years ago. Kool-Aid McKinstry might be the 4th best DB on that defense and the best DB on anybody else's, because what Malachi Moore can also bring to that Tide secondary. Like, they're going to be ready and rolling for this Michigan game. And if you get to play downhill against Michigan, meaning that you're going to put it on J.J. McCarthy's shoulders, you feel good about that, because J.J. McCarthy, while good, has not been great. So they're going to have to be able to run the football well. And also, you got to call into question, what is Michigan going to be able to do without Zach Zinter against Alabama? It is one thing for Michigan to run through the Big Ten, but we have seen it has been quite another for them to beat an SEC team in a college football playoff, let alone a Texas Christian. They still haven't done this before. Alabama has done this before. They know how this feels. That's the reason you don't want to play Alabama right now. Everybody else here doesn't know what winning is in a college football playoff national championship. Okay? Matter of fact, nobody else here has played in a college football playoff national championship. Nick Saban, man, greatest college football coach of all time, greatest football coach of all time for me, one of my favorites. I'm also got the national championships odds in here. Producer Tyler just dropped them in there for us. We got plus 160 for Michigan. We got plus 200 for Alabama. We got plus 300 for Texas. We got plus 700 for Washington. So there are people that seem to already think that Michigan is favored to win the national championship, and that would be right out of a storybook for them. This team on paper is already better than the 97 national championship team that featured Charles Woodson, among others, right? But also has a Blake Corum that is healthy, has a Donovan Edwards that is healthy. And we've seen what Jesse Minter and that defense is capable of, and Sharon Moore is the best assistant in the country. I think he's the Broyles Award winner, if not in line for a big-time job. Like, if Jim Harbaugh decides that he actually does want to go to the NFL next year, I would not be shocked to find out that Sharon Moore would be the head coach at Michigan. He's been that pivotal to winning for them, especially with Harbaugh having to sit out 6 games of the regular season. The man can win a national championship having coached on the field as many games in 2020 as 2023, and in 2020 went 2-4. I continue to bring this up because I think it's important. I mean, it's jumping into the time machine. But if Michigan played Ohio State in 2020, I'm not even sure that Jim Harbaugh's coaching that team in 2021, because I think Ohio State would have stomped them out. But since then, all Michigan has done is win football games, is beat teams that we all think are good. So for that unit, that program to do what they have done, given all of their self-inflicted turmoil, I find that to be truly outstanding. And for them to be favored to win the national championship just falls right in line with how the season has gone for them. And ACC AD called the CFP's decision. This is, man, talking about Michigan. They're the only team other than Washington we agree with. But I find it really fascinating that ACC has already called in surrogates on this one. An ACC AD calls CFP's decision unfathomable. Check this out. It's unfathomable that Florida State, an undefeated Power 5 conference champion, was left out of the college football playoff. Their exclusion calls into question the selection process and whether the committee's own guidelines were followed, including the significant importance of being an undefeated Power 5 champion. My heart breaks for talented FSU student athletes and coaches and their passionate and loyal fans. Florida State deserves better. College football deserves better. Again, I agree. I could not agree more. I get that some of you are very callous right now, going, cry me a river, dog. Like, I didn't want to see y'all play. I don't think you're that good. Again, are we going to be objective about anything at all? Are we going to look at scores and say, oh, that team beat that team, that matters? And apparently not, because I can't imagine this going over in any other sport the way that it goes over in college football. And what people that claim to like other sports will tell me is, hey, man, the thing about college football is that it's passionate, it's regional, it's about winning a national championship could go to 3 different teams in any season. I'm going, nah, dog, we demand more. If you like what you've seen, consider subscribing to the #1 college football show on YouTube, the Fox Sports app, or wherever you get your podcast.